Hello everyone, it's Lennon. Today I'm going to do some annihilations. I'm going to start annihilating something. This deck. Now, this isn't my most, I guess you could say my most expensive, my most prized Rider-Waite. It's one of these, it's my linen finish one that has these like weird backs on it. I'm sorry to say, but this is technically kind of like a bootleg version of the Rider-Waite. I mean, somebody took the images, which are technically free stock now, they're under the public domain, and made their own type of cards on linen cardstock. So anyways, it's pretty cheap. I got this for like, I think $11 or $12 on Amazon. So if I butcher it too bad, it's technically replaceable, which I probably wouldn't even bother, because I've got my old plaid back, which I love, and then I've got my Centennial now, which is my actual usable copy of this deck. Originally I saw this divination, I guess you could say, idea on Instagram via Over the Moon Academy, and then in a comment she had let me know that it was Broken Wing Tarot, and I'll leave their links below in case you want to go check out their Instagram handles, or their Instagrams, that actually did the idea first. And what they did was they used a hole punch, like a big circle punch, to cut out some of the faces, or some of the, I guess you could say, figure out which parts of the cards can get cut out, right? Now, what this person did on Broken Wing Tarot, they like cut some of these words out, and they cut some of the tops of them out, like the numbers, and then when you would lay them on top, it would just like make all kinds of cool stories. And so I was fascinated by this idea. I got so inspired. I was like, I happen to have a cheap deck. And I know we've got like a weird system here, but what I initially did, because I had to be severe with myself in the planning of this. So what I did, I purchased this. It was like what, $10 I think. I had to test it, because if it didn't do right on this kind of like cardstock, if it kind of butchers the circles, then it was not going to work. So putting this over to the side, let's talk about the system. Now the way I am going about this is in sections. I've made a type of, at first it was a pile for, I can cut them out. Like I can actually cut out a 2-inch circle and it work, right, with the rest of the card and what have you. But for this, in order for this whole thing to work, there had to be some cards that you weren't going to cut at all, so that these images would be, behind these, because these cards aren't very big. So if you start putting holes in every single one of them, you're not going to have anything to window to. So I've made a no cut and a cut pile, and that's these two. So these are my no cuts, and these are my cuts. Then I said, okay, well now we have to kind of mix up in the cuts. We have to mix up whether the circle is going to be on the top or the bottom, because that can change the dynamic of them too. So I took this one pile and put it into two piles, which are effectively these two piles. Okay, these piles are down below because I'm going to cut the bottom of this, and then these cards are up top because I'm going to be cutting the tops of these cards, just to kind of give some dimension to this whole thing that I'm doing. But then I had to go one step further. I really liked in this person's Instagram how some like King of Wands would show up on the 8 of Swords, and it would say King of Wands down here. But I can't have cards be different sizes in my decks. Like it's not going to feel right to me. So I thought, I'll get a mat and an X-Acto knife and I'll split both of these piles, both of my cut piles, into two portions, right? Basically, like these will stay the same, and then these cards I will cut the very bottom like a window with an X-Acto knife. And what that'll do effectively is leave the card the same like dimensions, but there will be a window so that the King of Wands would show up. Again, we can't do that with every single card. Otherwise, we'd get no windows, right? If we cut them all up. So I decided in this stack, how many, and I try to do it all evenly. Like, you know, if there were 38, and I had to do roughly 15, 16 to 18 cards, cutting the bottom of them out. That way, I've got a system going. So I did that with both of these. And again, so most of these cards, and some of them aren't. Some of them aren't going to be those cards that I cut the windows out, you know, because you would think that the only ones that would get a window would be the minor arcana. But some of them did make the list where I'll cut out the entire word of a major. So we just don't know. I'll see where this is gonna go. This is just like the preliminary, I guess. This is the plan stage. So here's my stack of all my cards that aren't getting cut at all. That I really, because with this beautiful circle cutter, you can figure it out, right? You can like see it's you know, it's got this plastic protection thing here, and I could judge the cards and see what works and what doesn't. And on this particular stack of cards, the circle just didn't, like, if like say the world card, like sure it looks like it's pretty good, but it's not completely centered, and that just does not work for me. So and then I didn't want anything of the edge to be in the circle, because effectively what I would like to do is keep the circles and put in like a bag for another type of divinatory kind of a thing. Like maybe use the circles in some kind of oracle, maybe like with this deck have that in like a side bag, and then when I'm doing a reading, throw down a circle, you know, and that can be kind of like an oracle / clarifier on the whole reading. So I'm kind of going along those lines with the leftover circles here. But I really liked this particular circle cutter. I'll leave a link for it down below. I liked that I could be able to see what I'm doing with it. And then this stack is the stacks of the cards that I'm not cutting, because this whole side, I'm not cutting these. But these are the ones sitting like this are the ones that I'm gonna cut the windows out of these. So as my no cut circle cut side, I still want to be able to like half these down here. Like I wanted to half this whole half deck to be able to have a window. So I went through and did all that and got the cards that I want to cut out the window so that the other cards that have the bottom name would show up. So I effectively did that. So stay tuned. Okay, I am back and I am done. So, now I think the only thing that this did, like that I don't like, is it kind of changed the structural integrity of the deck as a whole. So, like I said, sometimes the bottom windows catch on the other cards and you kind of have to finagle that. So it probably, let me move these out of the way because I'm going to do something with the decks to the side. It doesn't really do that well with ripple shuffling. I mean, because I'm pretty severe. So see, some of the cards catch on the other cards and it can be a real mess. But I found that just for this particular deck, okay, like that I have made, it might be better to just overhand, you know, and try to keep them shuffled. See, like I know that this is the Ace of Wands, yeah. Because this, for some reason, this one was wonky. And I messed up and I had to like super glue the edge here, which is okay. This is supposed to be an experiment. I'm gonna have to put that right there, like. So I'm gonna have to finagle how to shuffle it. I mean, you really, especially if you read reversals, you could just like spread them all out, you know, and pick a couple. Another thing that I noticed is that sometimes you won't get a window card and sometimes you won't get anything on the bottom, but I did try it with my, with one of my children and it actually worked out pretty good. So I'm just going to show you some of the variations that could happen. Like, as you can see here, that looks really cool, right? Because there's a window, there's not a word there, but there's these 5 cups here. Knowing that this is the 7 of Wands, so we know the meaning of that card. And because this is part of the 8 of Wands, the 8 of Cups that's behind here, we kind of see, but we're not seeing all 8 of the cups, right? We're only seeing 5. So I would interpret that like this was probably be the 5 of Cups and the 7 of Wands together in a reading. So that's kind of how I would interpret that. Now, let's see. Or, you know, you get wonky ones like this. Now, really, in this instance, I would only look at the Page of Swords. And it would be like I got the Page of Swords and the 10 of Wands in a reading. Say these two came up together, I would read this like a 4-card spread, probably. But then sometimes I would try to, let's try to get, like, look at this. Like, look at... Let's move this out of the way. Like, look how powerful that looks. Right? We're seeing this 9 of Wands, but then we're seeing, you know, this figure. We're seeing this figure behind this, like this figure from the 5. Yeah, this is the 5. I don't know why I'm second guessing myself now. Is the one standing in front of all these rods or wands, and that instead of being this battle worn figure that we normally see in the 9 of Wands, we're seeing someone that's a little bit used to the battle, a little bit mischievous in their tactics, you know, like there's some strategy here, like they still need the battle, they still, you know, the battle's not won, but you're going to have to use probably some resources. You're probably going to have to use some deceptiveness to gain whatever it is you want to gain. Another thing that I found confusing about what I liked about this circle cut is that not all the time did I take out the circle that was the main focus. Like, I could have made the circle his head and, you know, this figure's head and the hobo bag and the lily, and I could have just like really made it up here. But then I thought, you know, that's not the main part of this card to me. The main part of this card is the cliff, right? So now when we look at the tower, which I decided to keep up all of its own, and we tack stuff on top of it, it's almost like these people have already fallen off the cliff because they're falling, right? And it's no longer the tower because we don't see the word here. You kind of know and can kind of use that, but it's almost like they've already fallen off the cliff. So this is telling you about being a follower in a certain situation. Almost like that, adage, would you jump off a bridge if your friends would? So maybe something in your life, maybe a friend or a friend group is doing something that you don't really approve of in a moral way, right? And this combination is telling you, okay, well, they're doing it, let them do it. I can't be the carefree fool here. I have to stop and not go off the cliff with them, So I think that that's a powerful thing that I came up with for this 2 card combinations. But if we were to do something like this, right? Now, what if I did this? It looks like the fool's tied up. So he's not actually going to go off the cliff, but he can get out of this being stuck, like constantly being labeled the fool, constantly being the underdog of the group, or the friend group, or the whole school. Like maybe there's some self-esteem issues here for me, and then you tack on this, right? Now that's a lot of busyness, okay? But maybe this is, you're stuck, you're being labeled the fool, or maybe you're labeling yourself the fool. There's some self-esteem issues, and you're battling with that. You're trying to have the conversation with your friends. You're trying to work it all out. And that's like what's happening right now in this moment. Look how beautiful these turned out. Supplicants. I actually got rid of the supplicants in the devil card and in the Hierophant card because those were just like, I needed to take those out for me to process that. Look at that. Like these could be tarot all on their own. I'm going to put them in a little bag. I may use them by themselves because I think that would be epic. But this is like surprisingly easy to like kind of overhand or just kind of mix up because it really won't matter. You can always turn them around if they're upside down, So just kind of shake them about like tokens and go to town. So anyway, I hope that this was enjoyable. This, butchering of decks, or this one deck, this butcher that I did of this. It's almost, I cannibalized it. So, like I said, I hope that this was mostly entertaining. I'm not trying to tell anyone to go and cut up their decks, but I just was so inspired by these several Instagram accounts that I just had to try it, especially with this cheap deck that I could rebuy for $10 if I had to. And I'm not going to, because I have my Centennial and I have my plaid back. That's, my love. So it just felt like that's what this deck was for, is to kind of play with it and see what I could do. And if nothing else, these are so cool. Like I could still go back and do the rest of them that I haven't cut and make an entire deck of circles. So if nothing else, I could just keep these and throw this away. But anyway, like I said, hope this was entertaining. Let me know below what your thoughts are. Even if it's just like I don't know why you did that. Much love, people.